Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue 10, Jeff Loeb writing with Matteo Scalera on the art. So, also wrapping up a Batman limited series and also an early Batman and Robin timeline story. Because it was funny because you're reading the other one and then getting to this and Robin being like, "Oh, you give me a motorbike." Oh, like, it's just kind of funny how these two lined up so well.
These coming out on the same week doesn't seem fair to the Long Halloween, Last Halloween.
It doesn't. It's definitely the weaker book. I mean, which is not to say that I didn't enjoy things in this. No. I thought the ending was kind of sweet. It was quite fitting. I appreciate the idea that. Well, I appreciate some of the ideas in this, but obviously I don't necessarily love all of it. I do. Well, I kind of get what they're going for is that, different people have been using the moniker of Holiday. The idea that if you use that gun on a holiday, people will assume it's part of some serial killer and they won't be suspected of anything. I kind of like that conceptually. I do think the way it's been told is maybe been a little, like, once we started to really get confused about it, it felt like it never really was that satisfying to fit together again.
Just because, so if you've read Long Halloween and Dark Victory, that makes sense because the holiday killers in those are both different.
Yes.
Right? So it's not just one specific person. So it's this idea of holiday. And again, that goes in with what Loeb was doing with the Long Halloween, with the idea of Batman and then Two-Face, and I believe in Harvey Dent and all that stuff. So in the grand scheme, in the big picture, yes, I like that. Does it end a fulfilling story? Not really, because I feel like in this, there's so many cogs and gears at play. It gets a little muddled. And I just wish that maybe he had just maybe not so many plot points going on at the same time to really make that land, because the last page where Batman says, "I choose to believe in Harvey Dent," I thought that landed really well.
But I mean, that entire last scene, like, because they do that same panel of Batman, Gordon, and Robin, which was Batman, Gordon, and Dent in Long Halloween, looking up at them as they're having their discussion on the roof. They do some of the exact same panels to call back to that first book, and I really like that. I really like Batman bringing back that I believed in Harvey Dent, and then he says, I believe in, we'll get through this and we'll do all right because I believe in Jim Gordon, I believe in Robin, and I believe in Batman. And then the final page, he says, I believe in Gotham, and that's kind of how you wrap it up. I like that entire last sequence. I even like the action setup of, like, this has all been to construct a war between the Falcons and the Arkham, like,
the freaks versus the gangsters.
Like, I like that setup. It's just the setup to get here was a little bit convoluted, and I think the weakest part of the issue for me is probably the sort of the face-off with Two-Face and, like, Gilda, where I'm like, okay, I get that these two care about each other, but you've muddied the waters so much at this point with everything with Gilda and Harvey throughout this particular series that by the time he's like, Two-Face gives himself up to be like, no, I'll take the fall for everything that just happened. Like, I forced her to do that. It was self-defense. Take me away and just get Gilda help. By the time he was saying that, I'm like, I don't really care about you caring about Gilda anymore, because this book's kind of ruined that part of it, honestly.
Yeah, well, I also feel like it was Loeb trying to pay off the whole Gilda was Holiday, because that was always a fan theory going around. That she did some of the murders. It wasn't just Alberto in the first one. And I feel like this is him trying to pay that off, where I don't think anybody really cared about that at that point. I was much more here seeing Harvey's downfall, where thinking like there's a baby, right? And what does that mean for Harvey Dent, Two-Face, with Gilda and this type of stuff. And again, it just gets really muddled here with Mario and Falcones or the Falcones and the Selena, adding that all into it as well. I'm trying to tie back in the Catwoman story that he did. Was that When in Rome? So yeah, like you said, there are pieces in here that I really like. There are other parts where I'm just like, oh my god, this was a slog.
Yeah, some of it's just messy. Like, I think all the Harvey and Gilda stuff's just really messy, and they do this whole thing where Gilda's like playing both sides. She's kind of influencing Harvey in some ways and manipulating him. She's influencing Mario to influence him. And I do think the ending of Long Halloween did definitely imply that Gilda did at least one murder. Like, I always read the ending of that book as like she did at least one murder, but this weird convoluted thing of like, some of the things this in this story were the crime family. Some of them were villains that were connected to Two-Face. In Catwoman's case, she just shot herself because she got to herself before Holiday did. And it's almost like he was so determined to make a mystery that felt like it was too hard to answer that it kind of just made all the way it did kind of fit together unsatisfying. Like you get that sometimes where you write a story like a movie, a TV show, a comic book, whatever, will be like, oh, I don't want them to be able to predict something. But the thing is, though, is the reason why a reveal will be satisfying is because all the pieces were there, and it, in theory, could have been predicted because you're not cheating the audience. And sometimes if you do something that feels too out of left field, it feels like, well, that's not satisfying because you intentionally wrote something that could not be solved. And that's not fun. It's not, it just feels like a betrayal once you get to the reveal, because it didn't. I never could have thought about that because you never gave me the pieces to think about that. Now, obviously, yes, it's great if you didn't think of it, and then once you find out, you're like, oh shit, it was there all along, and I just never figured it out. But for that to be the case, it has to be possible to figure it out, and some people will figure it out, and that's okay.
I feel like if you go back and read this, you're still not going to be clued into the ending, right? Like I feel like there were the pieces there that Loeb wanted to get to, and he didn't care how we got there. So it's not like there were these breadcrumbs where you go back on a second viewing or a second read and be like, oh my God, I didn't notice that time, you know, like you do here. But yeah, it's in wrestling, it's like you're doing something for the pop, not for the story, right? You want the reaction, and that's not always good. Like sometimes it works out great. Like sometimes just the shock of something happening, cool. Here, not so much. On a positive side, though, the MATTEO SCALERA art, really good.
Oh, pretty good.
Very evocative of Tim Sale in the good ways. Right now, I'm looking at the page of Gilda in handcuffed with I think she's in Arkham, right? And then Two-Face locked up in the jail, and just it's split perfectly down the middle, and it's a very well composed piece of art that feels very much in line with the Tim Sale stuff from the early stories. So props to them, because again, the art here, despite as muddled as the storytelling got, I was never lost on the page. I always knew what was going on here and there. The words weren't matching with what I was seeing here, right? They weren't landing. So but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. The art is pretty solid here, and we kind of glossed over a lot of the action. Like, I don't think there's much to say on it. It's solid enough for what it is, because like I said, the siege on Arkham and Batman and Robin being this third party that comes in and tries to de-escalate it with their weird cannons that fire like gas grenades to try and take things, to calm them down or whatever, or obscure things. All that's fun. Robin on his motorbike, also fun. He's got a couple of one-liners. That stuff is perfectly solid. It's just typical action, really, with good art. Yeah. And I do really like that last scene. I think that last scene's a nice little sort of capper on the whole long Halloween saga. And, I like that it's credited at the end as LOEB, Sale, and Pals on the little, note at the bottom. It's like, hey, Sale's a part of this journey. He's an important part of it, and we're going to call back to it. So, yeah. It's like the ending's very sweet and it's very well intentioned. It's just that the writing was a bit muddy in places along the way.
Now that you mentioned the LOEB, Sale, and Pals thing on there, and the caption on the top is "I miss Harvey Dent," I can almost read that as LOEB saying that he misses Sale, right? Too, like, I miss my friend. He's not here anymore, but the idea of him will live forever.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
I do like that.
It doesn't feel forced, though, because this whole idea of like Batman and Gordon being friends with Harvey in that first story, and then kind of mourning the fact that he's turned into Two-Face and missing this ally that they had still has always been a part of it. So it still feels like it fits with just in story what's happened. So yeah. So yeah, a little bit mixed, with some really nice moments or scenes, but certainly a little bit messy overall, which is going to obviously affect whatever ratings we're about to give it. But what are you giving Last Halloween issue 10? I'm
maybe that's a 7.5, and it really next time I should read this before I read a Wade Somney book. I should know better, but I couldn't wait to read Batman and Robin Year One, so I read that first this week, and that might have affected the score just a teensy bit. But yeah, it's 7.5.
I get it. All right, I'll give it a 7. I don't know if I said that yet, but I'll give it a 7. Enough in there that I still kind of liked reading it, even with its messiness, but obviously it is a pretty big, a reasonably sized drop from the Wade Samney book.